The Mortal Kombat series has a long, storied history stretching back to 1992. With active development from NRS now over for Mortal Kombat 11, we're all looking forward to the next entry in the series, which for convenience sake we're gonna assume is being called Mortal Kombat 12. Hey, this is Arya from That Blasted Salami, and I invite you to a short daydreaming session, 4 things we'd like to see, and 4 things we don't want to see in Mortal Kombat 12. While the bar isn't set too high, Mortal Kombat has one of the more interesting stories in the fighting game genre. With several movies and even an animated series spinning off of it, it's clear the series has a lot of potential here. Mortal Kombat is a big melting pot of different ideas and cultures, so it's a little disappointing to see how fixated the story is around the war between Earth and Outworld, which arguably wore off its welcome decades ago. We'd love to see NRS try something a bit different, maybe allow the player to make choices in the story. How about choosing a side? Maybe even let Earth invade other worlds for once, and not just Outworld. At the same time, it'd be great to see Mortal Kombat focus on its martial arts roots again. Perhaps even explore the more spiritual and self-developmental side of pursuing a martial art through its story. With Street Fighter 6 going open world in its single player mode, maybe Mortal Kombat could also do the same. Just take the excellent Shaolin monks as a template, build upon that, and voila. Mortal Kombat is a slower, more methodical game than Mortal Kombat X. This is totally down to personal preference, especially since Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 is one of my favorites in the series. But I feel like the best Mortal Kombat games are the ones where the action is a bit faster and more chaotic. It also plays more to MK's strengths and unique identity as this bloody, visceral fighter. If you want something slower and a bit more deliberate, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but perhaps that niche is already filled by Street Fighter. Besides, NRS already has Injustice as the slower, more defensive, zoning-oriented fighter. We feel Mortal Kombat should be fast, frenetic, violent, and aggressive. So I'd love to see Mortal Kombat 12 harken back to MKX or UMK3, speed up the gameplay, and maybe reintroduce the run button. Speaking of Mortal Kombat's identity, the series has always been a looker. Even going back to 1992, it's always distinguished itself by having cutting-edge graphics that lean towards photorealism. This seems to be a trend with a lot of fighting games now. Street Fighter 6 looks more realistic, and it seems Tekken 8 will be too. So NRS is really gonna have to pull out all the stops if it wants to stand out against the stiff competition. MK11 actually ran on a heavily modified version of Unreal Engine 3. With the next iteration in the series, is there a possibility they'll skip Unreal 4 altogether and just jump to 5? Only time will tell. Become DashFight supporter on Patreon. Gain ad-free browsing on our site. Click the link in the description. Going back to the gameplay, one thing we don't want to see make a comeback in MK12 or any other Mortal Kombat game for that matter is Breakaways. You can see what NRS were going for here. Spend a bit of your defensive meter to escape a combo, which limits your other defensive measures for a while. Unfortunately, what ended up happening is that you can break away mid-combo and actually punish the person for landing it on you. Aside from being immensely frustrating, it was also quite hard to balance around, with characters who did staple unbreakable combos having a big advantage, and it also severely crippled combo variety. We've seen tag matches in Mortal Kombat 9, but it was more of a fun diversion than an integral part of the game. Tag isn't really being touched on by any major contemporary fighter out there. Even DNF Duel by Marvel vs. Capcom 3 developer Aiting is a strictly one-on-one affair. So what if Mortal Kombat is the series to take up the tag mantle this generation, and introduced a well-thought-out, fully kitted, competitive tag mode? Given Mortal Kombat's heritage, we don't think tag should outright replace one-on-one, but as an alternate mode of play, with potentially its own unique competitive fighting leads. it could bring something really fresh and interesting to the table. Sometimes less is more, and in the case of Mortal Kombat, we'd like to see a reduced focus on character customization. By all means, keep the cosmetic changes. In fact, there they could even give the players more options and flexibility, since all you're really doing now is picking skins. No, what we mean is less focus on moveset customization. Stemming from Injustice, this is a cool idea and it was nice to see it implemented in Mortal Kombat for once. But it's also frustrating to be limited in the amount of moves you can use in any single match. It felt restrictive, especially compared to the anything goes design philosophy of MKX. Along with the breaker system and slower game speed, moveset loadouts was one of the elements that contributed to the common complaint that Mortal Kombat 11 didn't give players as much room for expression. When I think of Mortal Kombat music, I still think back to the iconic soundtracks that Dan Forden brought to the original trilogy. He had a very unique style that merged upbeat house and techno with spooky synths and a dash of Eastern-tinged influence. It matched the series perfectly and complemented everything that Mortal Kombat is about. So it's unfortunate that the last couple of soundtracks for Mortal Kombat just haven't been all that memorable. Seriously, can you remember a single track for Mortal Kombat 11? No less something as instantly recognizable or hummable as the courtyard from the original game or the subway from Mortal Kombat 3. Whilst Dan Forden still composes some of the music for Mortal Kombat, we feel the problem here is more to do with genre. In opting for your standard, epic Hollywood orchestral style, the music just sounds a bit bland and generic. We'd love to see Mortal Kombat return to its roots here and bring back the synth. Or, failing that, just hire Mick Gordon and give us an insanely badass metal soundtrack to match that blood-pounding, high-octane gameplay. Finally, one last thing we don't want to see in Mortal Kombat is the amount of grinding necessary to unlock content. The crypt was an interesting idea at first, which seriously outstayed its welcome. Then having to grind towers just to get that one costume, when all you really wanted was just to go back online and play more sets, was a serious chore. The fact that we were actually begging NRS to give us an option to actually buy all this stuff should say enough. And that's it. 4 things we do and don't want to see in MK12. Do you agree? Disagree? What would you like to see in the next Mortal Kombat game? Please let us know in the comments below. And if you want to watch high-quality fighting game guides, podcasts, and analysis videos, then check out my channel, That Blasted Salami. Have an excellent day all. This was Arya from TBS, signing out.